Hello, welcome. My name is Nnaji-Ihedinmah Nnadozie Chijioke. I'm a lecturer at the Department of Entrepreneurship Studies, Faculty of Management Sciences, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka Nigeria. I'm very happy to participate in this World Summit on Management Sciences, tagged SciTech Management Sciences 2020. I believe everyone is staying safe in the face of this novel COVID-19 virus that has prompted us to present this work virtually. I want to thank the organizers immensely for this opportunity to share my research work with you. Today, I'm going to speak on psychological contract and employee retention in selected deposit money banks in Awka Metropolis, Nigeria. The banking industry is a vital component of the Nigerian financial sector. The industry makes significant contributions to the economy in the area of financial intermediation and employment to the teeming workforce. The National Bureau of Statistics data show that the banking industry in second quarter of 2020 had a total staff strength of 94,498 as against 104,364 in similar quarter in 2019. This shows a percentage drop of 9.45% year on year. Awka is the capital of Anambra State in southeastern Nigeria. Awka Metropolis has an active public and private sector businesses. 15 of the DMBs within 32 branches are located, with 32 branches are located within the metropolis. The banking industry is known to have a high rate of turnover because of the high demand for skilled workers and the level of competition. In spite of technological advancements, human resources have remained very vital to the success of many organizations. As a result, hiring and retaining highly skilled workers have become quite challenging in the banking industry today. This is because of the dynamic nature of human resources. As a key component of the service industry, service quality in the banking industry is dependent on the skills and competencies of the workforce, and this is a defining factor. Organizations that aim to be ahead of the competition curve strive to keep their workforce motivated and dedicated. Now we'll look at employee retention. Employee retention has been described variously as an arrangement to keep people with special skills much longer to continue to contribute to the success of the organizations. This is achieved by creating various retention programs and policies that make the organizational climate mutually beneficial. Also known as knowledge workers, this class of workers display specialized knowledge and skills that set them apart from the rest. They give the organizations competitive edge in the marketplace and so are valued by their organizations. Losing such highly skilled workers amount to depletion of the intellectual capital stock of the organization with the attendant cost. Employee turnover has been said to be very cost intensive. This involves cost of recruitment, training and development, placement, and other incidental costs arising therefrom. Reasons why employees leave vary, but research has shown that they are beyond monetary motivations like pay raises, cash rewards, and promotion, to include career opportunities, trust, organizational justice, employee voice, supervisor support, and work environment. Even after adopting different retention strategies, It is observed that some employees still leave the organizations for some other reasons. Now we look at psychological contracts. Beyond the formal employment contract that is written and embodies the rights, privileges, and obligations of the parties to the employment contract, employee attitudes and behaviors are also influenced by their perception that employers have a set of obligations towards them in exchange for performing their duties. Known as the psychological contract, the construct is a veritable tool for understanding employee attitudes and behaviors. Psychological contract, as defined by Rousseau in 1989, is an individual's belief regarding the terms and conditions of a reciprocal exchange agreement between that focal person and another party. That other party in this case is the organization. This situation, the researcher argued, occurs whenever an individual perceives that contributions made to the organization deserve to be reciprocated. Essentially, psychological contract is an individual's subjective perception about promises, expectations, beliefs, and obligations in the context of their roles in the organization. These roles are expressed in the contributions to the organization in terms of effort, ability, skills, and competencies. In return, the employee expects pay raises, job security, career opportunities, voice in the organization, justice, and other benefits. Psychological contract is substantially an unwritten, dynamic, and perceptive exchange relationship. When this assessment turns out positive, the outcome is increased employee commitment and other organizational citizenship behaviors. On the flip side, some counterproductive behaviors are likely to be experienced. This process is motivated by the belief that employers should be honest and open, fair and willing to create a healthy employment climate, where employees should exhibit openness, integrity, hard work, and willingness to contribute to the growth and development of the organizations. Literature identified two major types of psychological contract, namely relational and transactional psychological contract. Relational psychological contract involves broad long-term obligations in the exchange of social-emotional elements like trust and commitment. It involves offer of loyalty and commitment by employees to the organizations in exchange for job security and longer career in the employment relationship. Relational contract comprises of both tangible and intangible exchanges that are open-ended, broad in scope, and dynamic in nature, with implications for individuals' work and personal life. Transactional contract, on the other hand, involves exchanges of value between parties to the exchange. They are economic resources with close-ended time frame, static, narrow, and partial in nature. Transactional contract is narrow in scope, short-term, and does not confer so much responsibility on the employee towards the fulfillment of organizational goals. This leaves the employee to focus on advancing their career using the organization to enhance their employability. I would like us to take a look at the model of psychological contracts. According to Armstrong, 2009, in his Handbook of Human Resources Management Practice, 11th edition. This model talks about the process of psychological contract formation. Here you have the causes, the content, and the outcome. When you talk about the causes, this refers to how psychological contract is formed through an iterative process from the pre-employment period all through the period of stay on the job. This talks about organizational culture. When an employee comes into an organization, there is this consciousness to study the organization and the culture. This also helps in forming the psychological contracts. Again, we have the HRM policy and practices. The HRM policy of an organization determines how the employee responds to that organization. If they are favorable, if they are fair, it helps the organization to form an opinion about the organization, and it helps in forming a psychological contract. We also have experience. Some employees have been engaged in other organizations before joining their present organization. They carry along with them the experiences they had in those organizations. If they are favorable, they also influence their psychological contracts favorably. The same applies when they are not favorable. So experience plays a role in the formation of psychological contracts. Also, we have alternatives. When an employee perceives that there are alternatives out there, job openings out there, there is this tendency to weigh the options, whether to stay or to look for greener pastures elsewhere. These are the things that help in forming psychological contracts. We also talk about the content. This describes the traits that promote the organization and what it embodies. How fair are their policies? How fair are their HRM policies and other policies? We talk about the trust. This trust here is mutual. Does the employee trust the employer and vice versa? The employee-employer relationship should be that of trust, should be built on trust. And when that trust is lacking, it also affects the psychological contract. So trust is an essential element or component of the psychological contract. Again, it's the delivery of the deal. The delivery of the deal talks about the extent to which the employee perceives that promises made by employers are delivered, are fulfilled. This fulfillment helps the employee to know whether to trust the organization, whether to continue with the organization or not. All these things affect the nature and content of psychological contract. Again, when this psychological contract is positive, the outcomes are also positive. And when they are not, the outcomes are also not positive. For instance, when the outcomes are positive, you have something like organizational citizenship. It helps them to build commitment, organizational commitment, motivation, satisfaction, and well-being. This thing will help the employee to continue to build trust, to continue to have faith in the organization, and even have confidence that he or she will grow with that organization. These are positive outcomes. And we also know that when this psychological contract is negative, it helps in engendering some counterproductive behaviors or attitudes from the employee, and which is dangerous to the organization. So this is a model of psychological contracts and how the process through which it is formed in an organization. We'll now go to the problem of the study. Employment relationship in the banking industry has changed in recent times due to global factors that have affected the nature of the workplace. The loyalty, trust, and commitment that characterize employment relationship have changed to merely transactional. In the past, employees join organizations, grow and retire due to the mutual trust relationship between employers and employees. A lot of factors have been attributed to this radical change, among which is globalization. Globalization has brought about structural changes in this sector, like mergers and acquisitions, resulting in downsizing and other redundancies, which negatively impacted the employer-employee relationship in many ways. The effects in the banking industry include educational diversity, job security, and productivity, while raising decent employment questions, according to Idowu 2013. Other identified challenges include job losses, poaching, intra-wage disparity, employee low commitment to work. This is by Awka for 2009. The result of this perceived breach of contractual obligations by employers include a feeling of anger, betrayal, and resentment, which in turn translated to decreased employee motivation, dissatisfaction, loss of loyalty, and exit. That is Ugu and Oji 2013. Nkwocha also 2015 asserted that these changes have implications for the attraction, motivation, and retention and performance of talent employees. Now we'll go over to the significance of the study. There are only a few studies on the relationship between psychological contract and employee retention in Nigeria. Nkwocha 2015 investigated the linkage between psychological contract and employee retention, performance, and productivity in organizations in Nigeria. While Gabriel and Jonathan 2012 did a conceptual study on psychological contract in Nigeria. None of the studies focused on the banking sector in Nigeria. A similar study in this area was done by Gondo, Go, and Sitwo 2016 on the local authorities in Zimbabwe. This study therefore became necessary because retention of highly skilled employees has continued to be a major challenge in the highly competitive Nigerian banking industry, with implications on service delivery, stability, and competitiveness of banks in Awka Metropolis. Now the research questions. The following research questions guided this study. What is the nature of relationship between relational psychological contract and employee loyalty in DMBs in Awka Metropolis? What is the relationship between transactional psychological contracts and employee job satisfaction in DMBs in Awka Metropolis? Now the theoretical review. This study is anchored on organizational support theory by Essenberger, Huntington, Hutchinson, and so on, 1986. The theory states that employees form global beliefs concerning their contributions and care about their well-being. Similarly, Essenberger 2003 asserted that employees who receive highly valued resources like pay raises, developmental training opportunities, would feel obligated based on the reciprocal norm to help the organization reach its objectives through such behaviors as increased in-role and extra-role performance and lessened absenteeism. In the same way, Koche and Sharafinsky in Kong and Tien 2003 infer that employees form global perceptions concerning their evaluation by the organization. They develop general views concerning the degree to which supervisors value their contributions and care about their well-being. It is therefore believed that when employees perceive that their contributions are valued by their employers, it creates a feeling of debt, which invariably elicits some positive attitudes and behaviors that are necessary for the growth and success of the organizations. Now we look at the methodology. The study adopted a descriptive survey research design. The population of the study comprised of 187 employees from selected banks in Awka Metropolis. A sample of 127 employees of the following banks in Awka Metropolis were surveyed. The banks include First Bank Nigerian PLC, Union Bank PLC, First City Monument Bank PLC, Guarantee Trust Bank PLC, and Fidelity Bank PLC. The instrument for data collection was a self-constructed questionnaire made up of 23 questions addressing the variables of the study using a 5-point Likert scale ranging from strongly agree to strongly disagree. The validity of the research instrument was achieved using experts in the field. The reliability of the instrument was done using Cronbach alpha coefficient at 71.3%. The primary data generated from the field were analyzed using descriptive statistics and Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. Analysis was performed using SPSS version 20. Now the results. Question 1. The Pearson correlation coefficient R was 0.849 with p-value of 0.020, which is less than 0.05 significance level. This shows high positive relationship between relational psychological contract and employee loyalty. Thus, the alternate hypothesis is accepted. Question 2. Results show that the coefficient R was 0.384 and significant at p-value 0.000 at 0.05 level of significance. This shows a weak positive relationship between transactional psychological contract and employee satisfaction. We'll go over to discussion. The result of the study shows that relational psychological contract has a significant positive relationship with employee loyalty in the banks studied. This shows that a loyal employee will exhibit strong organizational commitment and other organizational citizenship behaviors. Also, transactional psychological contract shows a significant positive but weak relationship with employee satisfaction. This shows that when transactional contract changes, the likelihood that employee satisfaction will be affected is very low. The result is corroborated by Greener and Oddy 2007 study, which found a positive correlation between relational psychological contract and organizational commitment and trust, while transactional contract shows lower organizational commitment but unrelated to trust. In summary, the study established a strong positive relationship between relational psychological contract and employee loyalty in DMBs in Awka Metropolis. Also, the study established a low relationship between transactional psychological contract and employee job satisfaction. The study therefore recommends that conscious efforts should be made by bank employers to understand and ensure that the psychological makeup of employees is taken into consideration when planning their retention strategies. Employers in the banking industry should pay more attention to relational psychological issues in order to achieve employee loyalty. Ensure that they do not make promises they don't intend to keep, and that their HRM practices are transparent, fair, and just. In conclusion, I wish to express my profound gratitude to individuals who, in one way or the other, contributed to this research. We have now come to the end of this presentation. Thank you very much.